Welcome to the European Sport Congress podcast, where we discuss sport projects and priorities with amazing guests who are leading sport innovation. If you like this content, make sure to subscribe and to follow the European Sport Congress on social media.
Today, we are talking about the importance of communicating projects in academia with Professor Maurizio Bertollo, President of the Scientific Committee of the European Sport Congress. Maurizio Bertollo is a professor of sport and exercise science at the University Gabriele D'Annunzio of Chieti Pescara and president of the European Federation of Sport Psychology. He has worked as a consultant, psychologist, and coach for many sport clubs, federations, and for the Italian and Romanian Olympic committees, and participated in many research and applied funded projects. Thank you so much for joining us today. How are you feeling?
Thank you very much, Sofia. So I'm very fine and I'm very happy to be here to record this podcast for the European Sport Congress.
Thank you. Now, this was just a very short introduction to your extensive curriculum, both within the academia and in project management. So you know firsthand the importance of communicating and sharing results. Now, I'm going to get right to the chase. In your opinion, why is it so important for researchers to communicate their projects and results?
So researchers are used to develop experiments and protocols for their scientific studies and communicate the results of their research through the publication of papers in scientific journal or the presentation in specialized congress, sometimes not available to the non-academic audience. However, nowadays, this traditional routine is not sufficient and knowledge exchange includes any activities engaging non-academic audience in our research. This can activate interdisciplinary and intersectoral collaboration, which are mandatory in a changing world. In this context, a new evidence-based practice approach has been developed in clinical and applied context, and sports science is benefiting a lot from this type of approach. So much so that the scientist-practitioner model has been developed in sports psychology field.
Now, you've talked about scientific practitioner model. Can you explain what that is about?
So the scientific practitioner model is a training model for graduate programs that provide applied psychologists with a foundation in research and scientific practice. And it has been developed also in other fields, not just in psychology. This model emphasizes the complementary connection between basic and applied research and professional practice. In sports psychology specifically, it has been used to bridge the science-practice gap, and it is defined as a contextual project informed by specific domestic practical questions.
And that was probably propelled by the changing world that you referred earlier. What do you think has changed in the meantime?
The most important change of the last 50 years is related to the globalization, and it requires specific communication skills. Besides the typical longitudinal and topic-related skills, researchers nowadays need to develop transversal skills such as critical innovative thinking, interpersonal skills, intrapersonal skills, global citizenship, and media and information literacy in particular.
Yeah, very interesting to see how the academia has evolved to be more than just for pure research. Now, what do you think has contributed to that change?
So, for sure, fortunately, the new generation of researchers understood the importance of public engagement, and the great contribution to the process was given also from the open science policy that the EU Commission launched some years ago. An effective communication of the results of the research uses different channels and media and try to reach a broader audience, and in particular the stakeholders that define policies and make decisions in our societies.
It's so really, really important to know about communication. Can you please share with us some examples of how this effective communication has impacted sports sciences?
During the last 20 years, for instance, researchers showed the importance of physical activity in improving public health, and physical inactivity is nowadays considered to be one of the main factors behind morbidity and mortality worldwide. Moreover, the development of new methodologies in grassroots sport or the dissemination of dual career programs are examples of how communication impacted the sports science field. So the interdisciplinarity of different areas as humanities, sociology, and sports science, for instance, gave a great contribution to inclusion and diversity. There is a lot of research and projects behind being implemented to make sports more inclusive and to be used as a vehicle for social integration.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm happy to say that we also have inclusion as one of the core values of the European Sport Congress. So I guess that that could be another example. Now, do you think that combining research with projects like the ones on from the Erasmus Plus Sport Call contributes to this research?
To answer to your question, I would like to go back to the scientist practitioner model and the evidence-based practice mentioned before, because those are examples of the synergy between science and practice. Erasmus Plus Sport Call allowed the academia and clubs, non-governmental organizations, and other institutions to share experience and collaborate to reach specific goals in the field of sport.
Yeah, and besides contributing to increasing the impact of research in itself, funded projects can also benefit the academia in other ways, for instance, in hiring more people. What other advantages can you think of?
Other advantages for academia are the networking with different stakeholders and the opportunity to test some lab-based experiments in the actual field and have access to larger sample of participants in the applied setting. This collaboration with non-academic institutions is a plus value for both with an immediate transfer to the society and the actual real world.
It's interesting to see how this benefits not only the academia but also the end users and the overall society. How would you say, and given your experience, that project managers can ensure that their communication is effective?
Project managers should know their audience, prioritize the goals of the communication, translate the specific language and the jargon of the science into simple and effective words, and most important, uses all the channels of the communication during their multiplier events and conference.
That's a great communication strategy summary. Thank you. Do you think there's a gap between the academia and the other sports stakeholders when communicating their projects?
For sure, academia and stakeholders communicate in different ways. Stakeholders are more interested in the social and political impact of sport. Meanwhile, and academics are more interested in sport science development. However, in addition to its two key functions, scientific research and education, the university engages in third missions activities aimed at spreading culture, knowledge, and transferring research results outside the academia community, thus contributing to social and cultural growth. The university intends to be an economic and cultural engine for the local area, fostering progress and innovation, promoting dialogue and interaction with its citizens, the economic system, and public and private institutions. This is the common field of interest to build up fruitful collaboration and communication with the local and international actors in the field.
Yeah, and that's also why events like the European Sport Congress can help increase this impact. Talking about the project, the Congress, can you tell us a little about what it is and its goals?
European Sport Congress is the place where academia, institutions, clubs, and non-governmental organizations can meet for an innovative way of communication of the results of the Erasmus Plus Sport projects. An incubator and accelerators of ideas in which the dissemination of the previous projects will contribute to the development of new ideas for the challenges of our societies in the field of sport. Moreover, it is an opportunity to foster cooperation amongst different sport stakeholders and strengthen partnership. For the academia, as I was saying before, it is also a great chance to build a fruitful collaboration with international actors.
Yeah, that's a great summary saying that the European Sport Congress is an accelerator of ideas. What do you think are some of the ways in which sports stakeholders can benefit from presenting their results at the European Sport Congress?
I think that stakeholders will find at the EUSC, the European Congress of Sport, the following benefits. Abstract and products available for 1 year at the Congress online platform, disseminating through EUSC communication channels, published their abstract in the book of abstracts, screening during the event, and presented at EUSC main stage. So there are a lot of opportunities for academics to show what they are doing and interact with the stakeholders.
Yeah, exactly. And also fostering the collaborations that you were just mentioning. Now, you've also talked about the importance of communicating in different contexts, for instance, in multiplayer sport events. And also, obviously, you have worked as a project evaluator for the European Commission. Now, given your experience, what do you think that adding, for instance, this type of congresses when writing proposals adds?
One of the criteria that are considered in the evaluation of the projects is the impact and how the results will be disseminated. Therefore, the inclusion of projects' results on relevant EU platforms is an important point. And EUSC can be one of these resonance platforms that can spread the ideas of the academics.
Now, Maurizio, you're also part of several scientific committees to different events and congresses. Going into a more practical question, what makes a good abstract?
Oh, this is an important transversal skill for researchers. Abstract should be structured. So, for example, introduction, methods, result, discussion, and conclusion, and synthetic. It should be coherent, introducing the topic as well as the central question or statement of the problem that your research project address, defining the rationale and the goal of your research project. Share the methods of your quantitative or qualitative data and summarize the results. In the conclusion, for this type of congress, the applied implication and translational research should be highlighted a lot.
So, sharing the results with the end user, as you were explaining. Now, sometimes abstracts don't match their presentation. Do you have any tips on how to make a killer presentation?
There are people that are very good in writing and less in presenting. The most important tips is prepare, prepare, and prepare. It means elaborate excellent slides and help the attendees to keep the attention. Present it to a friend before the Congress and check the timing of the presentation. Uses body language and nonverbal communication, highlighting the different part of the communication. So use all the types of communication, verbal and non-verbal.
Yeah, very good. I'm learning it a lot. Now, there is a growing interest in bridging this gap between research and communication, with hundreds of courses available about science communication, for instance. So, on that topic, do you have any advice for researchers who are trying to improve their communication skills?
It is a very simple answer. During European Sport Congress, you will have the opportunity to attend the project communication section and further improve your skill in this way.
For sure, and I'm happy to say that the agenda of the Congress is very complete in that matter. Maurizio, one last question. What are your expectations for the European Sport Congress?
So for sure to have a great networking with different actors. This is my main expectation, and try to disseminate what we have done to build up new ideas and new projects that can have an impact to the population and to the citizens of the European community.
Thank you so much, Mauricio, for joining us today and for all the precious information you've shared on research communication and science communication. I'm sure that our listeners have learned many important tips on how to make a killer presentation and write an excellent abstract, of course.
Thank you very much, and I will hope to meet a lot of people at the Congress.
The European Sport Congress brings together stakeholders from all over Europe to showcase their work, connect with potential partners, and learn from the experts. The 2023 edition of this event will take place in Spain this September, and you can find all the information and register at www.sportcongress.eu.